Welcome to Long Box Diving, where we pull comics out of the long box. Um, so yeah, as you've probably seen by the title of the video, it's another X Factor comic. Original X Factor, because if you didn't know, they've rebooted X Factor, and apparently it's pretty good. I don't know. I haven't read it. I'll have to go and read it at some point, maybe. But right now I am making probably just a series on this early run of X Factor because I'm liking it. You know what? I make content I want to watch. I will have to get X Factor 1 at some point, and probably digitally, because if I can't find it, then oh well. But I did have X Factor 3 on hand, so I'm just moving right along. X Factor 2, X Factor 3. Let's keep going. And right off the bat, this comic is less focused on the characters because it's an action scene, right? Um, it's not a villain of the week comic, right? There's a lot of those out there where it's just villain of the week. This one has a problem set up by comic number 2. Comic number 2 set up a problem. Hank has been captured. Hank has been injected with a serum that's supposed to turn him from a mutant to a human. And the X-Men have to go and rescue Hank. And that's the problem, and that's what they're looking to solve in this comic. And this comic also sets up some conflict for the future. We'll get to that in a little bit. I don't think there's a huge villain at the time, so they'll probably introduce a new one in the next comic. But overall, this comic had a problem, and they were going to go and solve it. That said, they still have the character stuff in it that I really liked from the last comic. I really like the character dynamics in the last comic, right, where Marvel Girl and Scott and Angel are all having problems together. And Scott primarily, right? Scott is having a problem, and there's a good reason why. His wife became the Goblin Queen. Boy, that would make anyone upset, wouldn't it? But yeah, this comic focuses less on it, but it still has it, and it's done in what I think is pretty well. In ways the characters would react, and the times that they do talk about it, it makes sense, and it's written well. But the highlight of this comic, for me, it's an action comic. There's a problem, they need to solve the problem. How do they solve the problem? What this comic does well is showing us how they solve the problem, and it is done really, really well, and I like it. Now granted, I'm not super up to date on some of this, right? Did they do a soft reboot for like the powers? Because there's some instances of powers where it's like you should have known they were able to do that. Or that really shouldn't be anything special. They've done that in the past. So I don't know. Maybe they did a soft reboot. It's been 30 years and I'm not up to date on that. So, but that said, the way they handled the powers was really cool. We'll get to that. And the villain. The villain's also a villain, and the villain's handled really well. At least I think, right? He's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. He's a terrible person, but he has a good motivation to do terrible things, right? And so, makes sense. Okay, let's get into it. So, the Doc has to save Beast because the mutant formula literally put Beast into a heart attack, cardiac arrest. So the Doc has to save him, but Beast is still moving on with the procedure. He is becoming less of a mutant over time, and the Doc talks to his son Arthur and is like, "Hey Arthur, do you still have the mind link?" So for some reason I keep imagining it Dutch and Arthur from Red Dead 2. Arthur, just a little bit more. Come on, Arthur. One more job, Arthur. Um, but yeah, he asks Arthur, "Do you still have a mind link with Tower?" Yeah. So he asks, "What is Tower seeing?" Okay. Well, Arthur shows his dad, the evil scientist. I forget his name. Um, we'll call him Dutch. Um, Arthur shows Dutch, "Hey, look, these mutants are talking to Tower. They're going to find out where we are." Well, Dutch is like, "All right, we can't let this happen. Arthur, I know you don't like it. I need you to mind link. I need you to mind lock Tower. I need you to do it because if you do not do this, the bad people there are going to come and attack us." And he uses, "The bad people might attack your cat, Muffin. You don't want that, do you?" And Arthur's like, "No, not my cat, not Muffin. Okay, I'll do it." That is a manipulative man. Now, granted, in his situation, he does not want the X-Men to be there, right? He is trying to save his son. He is trying to develop a formula that will cure his son of the mutant gene. Okay? If the X-Men were to come, they would ruin that plan. That said, he is manipulating his child to lock the mind of Tower so that way he can't think. And Arthur does not like to do this. Arthur, it's stated, "I know you don't like to do this," but the dad asks him to do it anyway. The X-Men do beat Tower. As a side note, they do beat Tower, and they're like, "We can't negotiate with him. We can't just offer up negotiations with terrorists, right?" And they're arguing over that. And Scott's like, "Gene, we have to negotiate. We don't have any other choice." So Scott begins to negotiate. And Tower wants his freedom. Tower wants to go be free. And they agree on that. But before Tower can speak, his mind gets locked. And his face goes solid. And beams come out of his eyes. It is weird. And he can't think. He can't speak. He can't do anything. And it takes some time, but Arthur's mind lock eventually fades, right? I guess Arthur can't do it forever. He's only a child. But the mind lock does fade, and it gives the Doc some time. Dutch some time. And they eventually do talk with Tower. And Tower's like, "Yeah, they're using Beast in this lab here for experimentation. Like, you need to get there and stop that. Okay? I'm walking out now." Doo-doo-doo. And Gene's like, "You're a mutant! Join our team!" And he's like, "No. No, I am a mercenary. I am not a government agent." Gene. My girl. As Scott, being Scott, is like, "We've got to rescue Hank. Even if it means the end of X Factor. Like, we are going out there and we are going to attack this secret base, even if it means the end of us." Of course, then you have Vera. Vera's talking to the administrator, and that was a whole scene. Nothing really interesting, at least I think about it. She's worried about Hank, right? Another interesting scene. Arthur does meld into Hank's mind, and in case it wasn't clear enough, Hank's in a lot of pain. But now Arthur knows Hank's in a lot of pain. Spoilers, this is sounding a lot like Red Dead 2. Arthur stops working for Dutch, and he begins to realize that not everything Dutch does is good. What? Red Dead. I love that. But yeah, Scott's like, "We need to split into 2 teams. That way we have the best chance of rescuing Hank." Imagine Scott sometimes talks like Captain Kirk. I don't know. But this is where we see the powers begin to come in. Jean Grey lifts the fence with her mind. Really cool. Bobby Drake's like, "Yo, what? That's crazy. Your powers are insane. Your powers are really good." What I thought was really cool, I don't know if I have a picture of it. Yes, I do. Yeah. Later I'll show you. Um, what I thought was really cool, and that this is something the art team did, right? The art team did this, and I thought it was really, really, really cool. Um, is on the other side of the fence when they're in this government base, they're in the secret facility. Um, they draw the word bubbles for Bobby Drake and Jean Grey with dotted lines. Now they don't explicitly say they're talking telepathically, right? They don't explicitly say it, but they infer it because they're the only two that have this change of design. They changed up the design for dotted lines while they're in a stealth mode, right? And they were talking telepathically. And a couple times you still see Jean having those little tingles above her head. Um, like, the Spidey sense, right? And I thought that was really, really cool. A design choice to show you, the reader, that the way they're communicating is different, right? You understand if you've read comics, if you pick up on the lingo, Franca, uh, Bobby has a word bubble above his head that's like a cloud with circles going down to his head. If you understand comics and the language of comics, you know he's thinking that, okay? And if it's a solid line, they're speaking that. But when it's a dotted line, well, that's not something I've seen before. What does that mean? Well, Jean Grey is telepathic. So these two are able to communicate telepathically when the situation demands telepathic communication. And I thought that was a really neat design choice. That without having to say, hey, yeah, let's start talking telepathically, you're able to infer it if you know about Jean Grey's power, that, oh, they're now talking telepathically because of the dotted line. They changed the word bubble. And I thought that was really cool. Good, cool. I don't know if they intended that. It may have been a mistake, but I liked it. Scott and Warren, on the other hand, do not have the dotted line. They are splitting up into team two, right? Warren flies Scott in, and they're about to break into the facility. And Warren's like, dude, I know my timing might be terrible, but what's wrong with you? There is something wrong with you. And Scott's like, yeah, you're right. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with your timing. But they do have a little moment of something I feel would be very normal for people. Some people. There are some people in life where the way they deal with their emotions, and the way they deal with their problems and insides, and even if they don't, like Scott, for example, does not want to talk about it. The way he deals with his emotions is by working through it. And so this makes a lot of sense to me, where they talk for a second while they're working. So while they're breaking in and about to fight bad guys, and bad guys are rushing in, they actually start talking a little bit. And Scott's like, you're right, your timing's terrible. But, and Warren's like, what's going on with you, Madeline? And he's like, Madeline left me, dude. Madeline straight up left me. And they're working out some of his problems, Scott's problems, while fighting bad guys, essentially, and in a dangerous situation. And again, it's just one of those character choices that I think works really well, because I've always seen Scott as that type of guy, right? Where he's the brooding dark horse. And he's also the leader. I don't know if he's ever really been fit for... I don't know if he's ever been the best charismatic leader, but he's a tactician, right? And he's also deals with his emotions through brooding, and working, and he has to work to get through his emotions, because otherwise he'll just sit around and mope, right? And there are people like that. Man, this video is going on I've got a lot to say about this video. And then we get another instance of cool powers. They come up to a wall that Jean can't break through with her telekinesis. And Bobby's like, let's just freeze it. And he freezes the wall. And then he's like, all right, now just give it a little telekinetic push. And again, it's showing off the power sets of each of the team members. And I like that. I like that when you have a team who each have their own set of powers, and then you introduce obstacles in front of them to challenge them, and then you're able to use each team member with their power set to overcome the obstacle. Like the fence, for example. If Bobby Drake were to, I don't know, ice slide over the fence, that would not melt. And they bring this up. They point this out. They say that would not melt, and it would take too long, and people would notice. We're trying to be stealthy here. By the time they get inside the facility to that wall, Scott and Warren have already triggered alarms. So there's no need for you to be stealthy. Let's freeze this wall and then blow it up. And it's just good uses of power sets. Scott and Warren are in an elevator, and the elevator stops, and Warren's like, dude, I've got wings. Let's go up. We've got this. Conversely, because they were in the elevator, when Bobby and Jean open up the elevator chute, there's no elevator there. And so Jean's able to use her telekinesis to slow their fall. And again, it's creative uses of the power sets. Well, both teams end up getting to the bottom of the secret facility where Dutch is, right? And that's what I'm going to keep calling him. And Scott is furious. He's like, where's Hank? Where's Hank? And Dutch is like, okay. I'll explain everything. Take my boy. Okay? Do not hurt my boy. Do not hurt Arthur. Don't hurt Arthur. And he's like, way back when I first developed this serum, and I didn't have a son then. I was trying to create this serum. Well, I botched the formula. Somehow Hank drank that formula and ingested it somehow. I don't know, but he became the Beast. And all I got for it was shot. And I was just living out my days until I had a son who was a mutant, and he was going through tons of pain. And so he's like, I'm trying to develop a serum for my son so that way he doesn't go through pain. But I also want to remedy my mistake with the Beast. It does not justify his actions, but it does explain them. And he says, take the boy, get out of here. Take Hank, get out of here. Now, we don't have the time. Those guards you alerted upstairs will kill us. So Dutch here is afraid of the other guards in this facility. Maybe like a gang kind of thing, a mafia, where he's just the doc, right? He's developing evil serums, but he's allowed on the premises as long as he doesn't screw up. And if you screw up, you get shot. So there's definitely an organization here that's kind of controlling Dutch here and saying, we're going to kill you if you screw up. And alarms are pounding. They're coming downstairs, and they're going to kill anything that looks like a mutant. They don't care. They don't care about Dutch. They don't care about Arthur. They don't care about the X-Men. They're going to kill and try to kill anything down there. He's like, go get. I'll spare you some time. Okay, and they take Hank. They take Arthur, and they run out. And Arthur's one of those characters in here that you can't help but feel sad for. They drew him to look sad. They drew him in a way that you would feel pity. But you see his father being a manipulative person doesn't matter the reasons. His father's being a manipulative person. And the boy is trying to live and live up to his father and and help his father. And so he's kind of being manipulated like that. And he also experiences the pain of the people around him. And he doesn't like the situation that Hank is in. And he doesn't like what his father's doing. But he loves his father, so he still wants to stick around. And you get that sense that the boy loves his father despite disapproving of his father's actions. And he would do anything to help his father. So when the boy is the Arthur is the only one who notices that Dutch is shot. He's the only one that knows. That hits hard, man. Is the one who wants to please his father, wants to help his father, and he's the one that can mind link with his father, and he's the only one that sees his dad die. The only one. And it hurts the boy too. But X Factor, they're the team to help the mutants. So that's what they do. And they get him out, they get him safe, and we're wrapping up this comic, right? It's a 20-minute video now. Oh boy. But we're not quite done. Jean confronts Scott. Jean's like, look, I need to know. I need to know. I'm not gonna play around with this. I'm not gonna play around with you. I need to know why you're trying to be alone, why you're trying to hide from everybody. Tell me now. She's like, I'm a big girl. I can handle terrible news, but you need to tell me. I don't care what it is. You need to stop brooding, and you need to tell me what's going on, because once you tell me, everything's going to be okay. Because guess what? Jean doesn't really care about what's bothering. Like, Jean cares about Scott, right? She wants things to return the way they were. Scott is brooding, and Jean doesn't care what happened to Scott. Scott needs to stop brooding. He just needs to stop. He needs to get his head in the game. And she's like, I can handle literally whatever you throw at me. I'm a human. I'm an adult. Whatever you say, yeah, will it hurt? Probably. But I've also been gone for a long time. So stop worrying if it's going to hurt me and just say it. And Scott begins to break down. And he says, you're probably right. This is what happened. But he doesn't get to finish because Hank rings the doc's bell, right? Or something. The nurse's alarm. And there we have Hank, who's not the Beast anymore. His face is a human's face, but he has the blue hair. He has blue hair, but other than that, he's seen as a human. And Hank has not looked at it like a human since early X-Men, right? First Class. And that's been a long time. So that's interesting. Overall, I like this comic. As you can tell, I've talked about it for 22 minutes. I like this comic. And I'll probably continue this run for some time. I'll see you next time in the Long Box.